Okay, what do we got here?
A C230.
A C230 Mercedes-Benz. Oh, ooh, Mercedes-Benz. Now, I'm not sure. When this car first pulled into the driveway, I thought this was a Chrysler K car. Now, just look at that. You back up. Did you get the whole car in frame?
Yeah.
I thought this was a Chrysler K car when it came in. Particularly the front grille. Until I saw, that. And then I thought it was a Chrysler K car with a Mercedes-Benz emblem on it. Okay, let's pop the hood that I just shut. Where's the thing? Okay, so for all you older folks, now suddenly Ford didn't seem so outrageous when they were having their commercials with their Granada commercials, where people were getting their Granada confused with a Mercedes. That's not my Mercedes, that's a Granada. Yeah, I bet a lot of people fell for that. Now, enough ripping on a Mercedes. There's some things here that I really like. I like the rear wheel drive. Makes it easy to work on. We got to do a water pump job on this car, and I haven't done it yet, but it looks like the easiest water pump job of all time. Even easier than a small block Chevy. Let's find out if I'm wrong or not. Okay, good pause. See, some people got it made. Okay, now we're replacing the water pump on this Mercedes C230. And first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to remove our belt. And before you want to remove a belt, you want to make sure how the belt goes back. And here's where doing videos really comes in handy, because we automatically get to see how the belt goes. In addition, we also have a wiring diagram. We're totally loaded for bear. So, or not wiring diagram, a belt diagram. Okay? So, we're loaded for bear. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the belt. And we need a tool for that. And that looks like it's some kind of inverted Torx fastener. So you probably need some type of 12-sided socket, which we do not have. But I have a 6-sided socket, a 6-point socket that I think will work. We'll put that on there. And pull on it, and we got enough tension off that belt to get it off the idler pulley? Yes, we do. Yes, we do, and we're home free. So I'll just let that hang there for the time being. We'll probably put a new belt on it. We got a new belt for it. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take these screws off of that pulley, or those bolts. Technically they are screws. They'd be called caps, but we all call them bolts. They've got a 10mm head on them. And let's see if I can break them loose without that pulley spinning. And here's a tip for you sports fans. A smart person would have broke these free before he took off the belt, because the belt would do a good job holding it. If you're not smart and you take the belt off first, you can either put the belt back on, or you could put a strap wrench on it. Any of those things would do. Fortunately, I was lucky enough that I did not get burned by my stupidity, and they were not a whole lot of torque on them suckers, so that's kind of a good thing. All right, now I'm going to get a speaker magnet to hold our bolts. We'll just put that thing right there like that, because you don't want to lose these bolts. How much you want to bet? Being a Mercedes, not only is it metric, but it's probably metric with some strange pitch. So you wouldn't be able to just buy one from a hardware store. So when you're working on cars like this, you have to have an extra degree of caution in not losing parts. And you see that pulley that's kind of tight on there. And I remember watching a Hogan's Heroes once. And they were working on a German airplane engine, I think, and they couldn't get it apart, and Hogan says, let me see it, and he takes a hammer and he whacks it, and it came apart, and the punchline was, it's German. The only thing it understands is force. So we got the same thing going on there, don't we? But that part came off successfully. Next thing, we're going to have to drain the coolant. And here's where my tip, if you've been watching all the videos, my first ones, we have a nice, clean, designated coolant drain pan. They're going to use this. Rather than sharing the oil drain pan and the coolant drain pan, it's well worth to spend the extra money and get a separate coolant drain pan. What we're doing, we're going to keep track of these bolts here to make sure which one is which, because I understand they're different lengths. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little diagram of this water pump, so we know which size bolts to take out. And you know what else we're going to do? We're going to take the new water pump out of the box and just take a look at that. That might give us a little insight on this job as well. Okay, so we have our new part here. That's going to give us an idea of how many bolts there are, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this old pump we're going to use as, it's going to be returned as a core, but the core guys aren't going to care. The remanufacturers aren't going to care if we write on them. So we can write 1, 2 on there. And then with an understanding that it's going to be clockwise, you know, this 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But at least we know our starting point was right here on this one hose nipple there, water neck or whatever you want to call it. That's going to be our number 1. So then the next one will be 2 and all the way around in a clockwise pattern. And I'm going to stick them in a piece of wood that I drilled some holes in. And I numbered the holes. So that way we probably won't mix up our bolts. Here's the other thing. Mercedes, in their infinite wisdom, has got these inverse torques for the water pump bolts. And I don't know, that's kind of interesting. So we're just using a regular old, let's see here, see if I can even read it. It's an 8mm socket, and I got the first one and I got the second one. Okay, the first two came free relatively easy. I think the foot-pounds of torque on this is pretty low, okay, and which means that's why we're going to be able to get them. So we're getting by without buying the right tool. So they're a 12-point fastener. I suppose if you knew that that's what you're running into before you did this job, it would be worth getting. I did not, but I think I'm going to get by without it. If I stripped one, I would go buy myself a 12-point fastener, which I probably, or rather socket, which I probably would never ever use again as long as I live. But if I can get by without it, I'll get by without it, because the torque I'm putting it on isn't going to be anywhere near as hard as the torque taking it off. So if we can get these all loosened up, that's the way we're going to do it. The other thing too is I couldn't find a petcock on the radiator of this car, so we are just going with loosening up the water pump. It's just going to let the fluid gurgle out. I got the pan underneath, but I couldn't find a convenient place to drain the hose. Taking off the lower radiator hose isn't going to do much good because the nipple there is way up there, so you're not going to drain hardly any out of the engine to prevent. So all you do is just drain extra radiator fluid out too. I suppose if you were going to do a fluid flush and change at the same time, that'd be a good idea, but I'm not. I'm just going to top it off. I only have one jug of antifreeze, and well, so that's what we got going on there. We're just going to put her back together. If they want it flushed, I guess they can have us do that some other time or have it done somewhere else. But let's see how many. There's 2 different size heads too. These are 10mm. These other ones must be about 12, or these ones were 8, weren't they? I don't know. It was some size. I remember it was a size. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I got one there. 6 on the very bottom. And I think these 2 larger ones, 7 and 8, they'd be the next bigger size. But doing this by feel because I can't see it. Got it. Yeah, I think we got it. So now with these last two, it's a somewhat bigger size, and we'll just see. I think it will. Yep, we got her. We'll take off this one. Okay, that's 8 bolts, and there were 8 bolts in the new water pump, so that must be all the ones we need to deal with. Now, we will see if the ones we loosened are the right ones. So we'll take these things off. I don't think I'm going to take them all the way off yet. I think I want to crack this loose and just let the water dribble out, and have all the bolts out and bust it loose and have all the coolant go all over hell. Like I said, I couldn't find a petcock on the radiator. There's probably some way to drain the block, but you know what? I just didn't want to spend the time figuring it out. So I'm just doing it this way. So maybe it's not the right way to do it, but I've never let that stop me from doing something before. So what I'm going to do, my plan is to take out most of these bolts, leave about a couple of them in, crack her loose, and let the water dribble out. Okay, I think I can do this by hand now at this point. What we'll do is we'll take the bolts out of the bottom side of it, and then we'll have the bolts on the top side way loose. On the other hand, in order to make sure we're doing this correctly, I think I should take the bolts out and put them in my piece of wood so I don't mix them up, because that was our main concern. I think I'm going to do it that way. So I am going to be running the risk of having the whole thing fall off at once and making a big hell of a mess. But I consider that less of a problem than mixing up the bolts. So that's the way we're going to do this. Now, what I'm going to be doing now is removing 8 bolts, and I'll probably end up editing this out because, you know, who wants to watch me take out bolts that you probably can't even see? You get the idea. If I run into any specific problem, I will leave that part in and mention it. But probably a lot of this is going to be left on the cutting room floor. That should be all the bolts. Now I'm going to put them where there's no way. Well, no, I'll still need them yet. We'll just have to hope nothing bad happens. I think I might set that on the ground, because that way at least it can't fall. Okay, now I'm going to loosen up those radiator hose clamps.